whole. And so that's the kinds of things we're excited about, and happy to answer any questions as best I can.
Anybody have any questions?
Otherwise, I'll turn it over to James. Yes.
You said, and I know you said you were going to look at the market needs, but do you have any idea what type of light industry you're talking about?
Mr. James, I've asked him if he would come and speak after me, and that he's got his finger on the pulse of the market with the work that they're doing, and we're going to collaborate with them in terms of getting into the market. So I think he would be a better person to directly answer that question for you.
Anything?
What was the terminology you used? This was going to be a market dictated?
Market driven. In other words, yes, sir.
Got it.
Yeah, we're going to go to market, and the market's going to dictate to us what the opportunities are. But keep in mind, in the PUD, we created standards. We created a scenario of what we would be comfortable in terms of helping St. Mary's achieve its goals. And so there's some discipline there in terms of what comes out of it.
Sure. Thank you.
Yep. James, do you want to talk a little bit about the industrial side?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Thank you, James.
I think to send Katie or Kayla something to put up on the screen. Walk through it.
That's called slacking, James.
That is called slip.
So, as Paul mentioned, the JDA has been involved with these discussions. Wow, I guess it's been almost 2 years. Early on, about this time last year, we were working on the terms of a letter of intent, a non-binding letter of intent for the JDA. At the time, we thought, is there a pointer on here? But there is. Nope. What's the pointer look like, Gail?
Red.
Okay, there we go. Thank you. About this time last year, we were pursuing a non-binding letter of intent with Rayonier regarding this property here. It was after the wetlands are delineated, or at least the initial wetlands assessment was done. That's about 120 acres. There's some little nodes here that you'd have to build around. It's not a perfect rectangle, but we all know that finding a perfect rectangle of property in Camden County, Georgia, without wetlands is kind of difficult. Due to budget reasons, we decided to pull back from the purchase of this property speculatively. And Paul and his team at Radiant were kind enough to agree that, all right, if the JDA can't purchase it outright to begin with, we would agree to position the property together, market the property together, and then cooperate should a prospect be identified, or multiple prospects that would be suitable for that property. So that's where we are, where we were. Since then, it's largely been a project led by Mr. Horton at the City of St. Mary's, and in cooperation with Rayonier, and we've sort of played more or less a support role in the background. And what I've given the commissioners tonight is just a little bit of an explanation for why we support the idea of this project. Our mission statement, first of all, the mission of the Camden County Joint Development Authority is to promote and stimulate economic growth in Camden County. So we feel that there are multiple ways that this Project Sparkle, helps to satisfy that mission. Tourism, for years I've heard people, ever since I got here, talk about Camden County as the gateway to Georgia, or the gateway to this, the gateway to that. This would finally make us a true gateway destination. It would give visitors and people passing through the sense that they have truly arrived somewhere. It would draw visitors downtown with a boulevard-like concept that is architecturally planned. Signage would be governed and regulated such that it's not just allowed to happen with, McDonald's signs and Hardee's signs and, billboards, it just any which way. It would be governed such that it would really make you realize, hey, I'm in someplace special right now, and I want to continue to see what's down here. And the hope is it would draw visitors further into St. Mary's. Commercial development, retail, restaurants, all of the things that normally follow rooftops are bound to happen with this. There are plans for healthcare facilities, or at least areas that are designated or hopefully marketed toward healthcare facilities. Hospitality opportunities are a part of this plan. And I gave you a little comparison there that right now, this entire area generates about $6,800 for the county in terms of tax digest, $14,000 total with the county school system and the city of St. Mary's. I reached down just south of the border and looked at several developments, commercial developments that have been built around Radiant's current Wildlight development. And I want to be careful to understand that they've been very clear that this is not Wildlight. This is not Wildlight 2. This is a completely different thing with a very St. Mary's centric focus. But just by way of comparison, one Publix anchored shopping center is the assessed value is $3.64 million. The small restaurant village concept on 1.2 acres in front of Wildlight, the assessed value is about $450,000. Just the acreage there. The outpatient physician center on 7 acres, the assessed value is about $2.7 million. If you were to take those numbers and extrapolate them and apply our Camden County millage rate to those assessed values, you'd end up with an annual contribution of about $96,620 to our annual tax base. That's pretty good. Now that's before you can consider, TAD and those other things, but that's just 3 elements of the commercial development that could be planned here, and obviously there's much more that's contemplated in this plan. That's not to mention the sales tax throughout the district that even during the TAD period continues to be collected. So it's got tremendous opportunity to generate sales tax to support SPLOST projects, eSPLOST projects for our schools. So that's tremendous. And finally, this industrial property here, I've made the point several times, we are short on property. This isn't the ultimate answer for all of our market in that it doesn't have rail. It doesn't have all of those elements that some of the larger heavy manufacturing projects seek. But to your question, Martin, we think with its proximity to I-95 and its immediate proximity to Florida, we get contacted by a lot of projects who need access to the Florida market, but they don't want to locate in Florida. The land costs are higher there, lease rates are higher there, insurance rates are higher there. Just the cost of doing business in Florida is so much higher. So that really has become sort of a niche market for us. Folks that need access to Florida, but they don't want to be there. So we really think that distribution centers and light industry that needs immediate proximity to I-95 would be our ideal market. So like I said, what we've agreed to do is Rayonier and the JDA, or Radiant and the JDA, excuse me, will agree to market that property together, position it so it's attractive for prospective tenants, and then at such time when a tenant or multiple tenants are identified, we'd cooperate together to get them into the park. And then, my final note, I just want to make sure everybody understands that the JDA, we do support positive, well thought out economic development like Project Sparkle. We are not a part of the current financing plan, and as a result, we're not a part of any tax allocation district negotiations. So that's really not where we come in. But again, we certainly do support the positive economic development. So, any questions for me?
I don't have any.
Me, I don't have any.
I'll be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
I've provided the commission with a single page, which you'll find up on the board. Mr. Casey, myself, and Mr. Boatwright sat down and had a meeting last week to discuss the pad. One of the things that was brought up in the meeting was being able to continue to be able to support the existing services that Camden County provides to this area. One of the things that we looked at was, Ms. Boatright kind of challenged me on, okay, how do we continue to provide the services with the growth of the area? And that was the challenge it gave me. So what I did was I took the liberty of saying if Camden County were willing to give us 95% of the contribution as opposed to the 100%, what would that produce? And that's what that single sheet that you see on the board would generate. Between lost, spliced, and the current 2022 property value tax rate, and then the non-contribution property tax, that 5% that we were talking about, what would that generate? It'll generate roughly $39 million, just over $39 million over a 20-year period. And the numbers that Mr. Boatright had used, I guess would be the appropriate, or calculated, that's pretty well real close to a wash, if you will. But that's what we'd like to, that's what we're coming to the table with to ask you. I didn't want to run you back through that whole presentation again. But I've also provided you with a copy of the draft of the redevelopment plan for the property. For you can read and look over. It goes into a little bit more detail in the back and things of that nature. So really, that's kind of where we're at right now. And here to answer any questions I possibly can.
Anybody got any questions?
Yeah, I got a few. So it was mentioned the city's obligation in this is going to be split into two phases. Could you specifically go into details about what's encapsulated in those two phases and how timing is going to play in funding for each phase?
Yes, sir, we can. If I can, I'm going to go back to the map for just a second. Most of you in the room know me well enough to know that I'm on the smartest light bulb. But to make it easy for us, the north side is phase one.
Okay.
The south side is phase two of the project. The focus will be on that first phase, and roughly that's $36 million. I think that's a rough number right off the top of my head. To do the south side is calculated out being around $64 million. But the way this thing is being built out with the increments that's being forecasted, the growth in there and the development of the project, we should see over what our principal and interest is on the bond payment for the first. We are working on being able to build it out as the second phase of it as a pay-as-you-go, and also supplementing it with grants. We're working on several grants as we speak. Does that help?
Yep, yeah, it does. Speaking of, you'd mentioned bond payments, with phase one being tied to a bond, I guess to oversimplify it, bonds are a way for governments to, corporations to get loans. And as you start drawing down off that bond, you immediately have to start servicing that debt. And so, what's the plan to service the debt while phase one is being built out? And then, after phase one is completed, what's the plan from that point forward?
Okay. You're going to have a couple of years, roughly, it's like 2 3/4 years. We'll say 3,
Okay.
Just figuring. You'll have 3 years where you won't have increment coming in because they've still got to go in and do their design work and all that kind of stuff. The bond is being structured in such a way that there's money in there to be able to make those at least a couple of those payments, and it'll also be off the interest of the money that's in the bank to be able to make the payments on the bond for the first couple of years.
The city will also be able to recoup some of that money through tap fees, am I correct?
That is correct. That is correct. And we're looking at the tap fees and the aid construction fees that we charge in St. Mary's to also offset and be able to help us do that second phase of the overall project and not have to go back to the bank to draw another line
Okay.
or bond, excuse me.
The redevelopment plan that we have a copy of, is this include the developer's agreement or is that a separate document?
No,
It's
that's a separate document.
Separate document?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a document between us and them,
Okay,
which you've all been provided a copy of that.
right.
Martin, Mr. Turner, I'm sorry, you may not have received it, and I'll get you a copy of that.
So the timing to initiate the phase one infrastructure development, would that be immediately or would it be once, Radiant Place has done certain obligations, or how do y'all foresee that moving forward?
There's really and truly, and they're sitting behind me, so I'm gonna say it in front of them. This is where we're at.
Okay.
That we haven't gone any farther than that. They still have to tighten up the land use and really see how the best way to use that property. So that still has to occur. There is a component, we call it the beautification project, which is the St. Mary's Road and the monumentation coming down. That is a part of this TAD. That would begin immediately. So you'd see that money being spent early on.
Yep.
And it's actually broke down in two phases as well.
Right.
So it stops about where you see the loop. Right about in there? Is that right? Okay, back over here. So it's broke down in two phases as well.
Okay.
Phase one, you're gonna tie into the existing, wastewater treatment plant there?
Yes, sir, that's part of it. That will be coming back online. For those of you that don't know what we're talking about, located right over here in this little area is an existing, treatment plant that was put there when Osprey Cove was, hit its growth spurt in 2004. I was looking at Mr. Myers, he remembers. About 2004, we hit a point where EPD said you can't build anything else. You've got 10 to your capacity. So we put this in until we could get the big plant on Point Peter built out. And at that time, we put in a force main between this location and there. So there is some development that's got to occur along St. Mary's Road. I don't have any clue what I just did.
You broke it.
There we go. Probably. We've got to do some expansion on some of the sewer lines and some of the lift stations to be able to accommodate it and getting it back, some of the flow back to the Point Peter plant as it exists. And it's also going to be expanding that little plant right there to take it up to 1 million gallons a day. I said that right there. Yeah. So there's growth in that plant and in the lines going back to the Point Peter plant.
But right now, if you do phase one, that treatment plant will handle phase one. Then if you don't go any further, you're still okay.
We'll still have to do some upgrades in the sewer lines going back to Point Peter and increasing some of our lift stations. That work will have to be done as a part of that
Phase two.
one. As a part of phase one. Yes, sir. There's a whole nother side to the phase two part of it.
Okay.
And 65% of the overall bond is on water and sewer and
Water and sewer.
roadway.
Speaking of that, not to get off topic, but, a little bit of history there, I guess. Y'all currently have a water and sewer bond for?
That's correct.
Okay, and that's basically covering upgrades that were made in the early 2000s?
Correct.
Okay. And what's the current funding source for that?
That's a bond as well.
A bond?
Yep.
But I mean, it's bonded, but how do you service that debt?
Off of the, aid to construction, capital recovery,
Okay.
and SPOSS.
Okay. So, being that this is a market-driven project, and speculative, I would say, what assurities does the city or the taxpayers have to, say y'all go in and develop phase one and put the infrastructure in, and Rayonier and Radiant Place, they're looking at what to do with this property, but 3 years, fast forward 3 years goes by, and nothing really happens. And the city has to start paying that bond payment or continue paying it past the projected forecast. How do you plan to service that debt beyond the 3-year initial projection?
When you look at the marketing analysis that we gave you at our last meeting, do y'all want a copy of that now? I've got extras with me, but I had given it to you. Is that something?
Yeah, that's fine.
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
I got a copy.
I got mine.
Thank you.
That's frozen. I don't know if it's the same version as that. Which one are the bonds?
You just happen to have that with you.
Just to add from our perspective,
Sure.
because that's a really important question. One of the things that we in no way want to see happen is failure. Failure to St. Mary's or failure to the project. And that's why the introductory slide says it's a private-public collaboration. And so one of the things that we're committed both with the City Council of St. Mary's is every 6 months, we have a check-in. And with staff, on a regular basis, we have a meeting. And so we're going to work together as we understand what are the market conditions and what's happening. And if we see major shifts in the market that require adjustments, it's in both of our interest to make those adjustments together. And that's the unique position of working with a company like Radiant. We continue to generate revenues from timber because that's our core business, and we have the capacity to be patient. And that's what's different from just a regular developer. Regular developer buys a piece of property. The only way they're going to make money is if they go out there and immediately produce something off that property. We can be patient and be collaborative. So that's something different about working with us.
Right, yep.
So twofold to your answer. Okay. First off, when we were talking about the bond and that kind of thing, the financing aspect of it, we are looking at a recallable bond at any time. Our financial advisor that we use for this, Stevens Group, Mr. Bill Johnston, he's set it up in a way that if we hit something like that, we can back up, retract, and rework the bond at any time. Okay, so that's a plus. The other thing that we're working on, when you look on in that document I just handed out, the economic impact study, and you look on page 24, fair market value, that gives you some indication on what speculatively is going to be built out and the timing of it. And you can kind of see that when you start looking at it and thinking about it, it's a very conservative build out from the way it's set. Guarantees, we don't have hard written guarantees, no, sir.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing I would like to see some specific performance in the developer's agreement as far as, something to kind of make the taxpayers whole if anything wasn't, certain obligations weren't met by a certain time frame. you know, I'm in the speculative business. I mean, that's pretty much all I do, but I'm a private enterprise. I don't, you know, necessarily think we should be speculative with, you know, our fiduciary responsibilities with taxpayer funds. So.
The other thing on that, when you look at the build out of it and how the bond is and how the money flows, and if you'll remember, we're talking about being able to do the second phase of this bond or the second phase of this project off of the money that is over what the principal and interest payments are made on. So that's kind of the buffer we're really talking about. We can talk percentages. I mean, it starts out like 1.5% over principal and interest, and it builds from there all the way up to like 5% over what that principal and interest payment would be. So if that second phase didn't go, we can certainly make the payments with that first phase, because all that money that we're looking at is being generated really off that north side of the road. Just something to kind of think about as well. Any other questions?
I don't have
Somebody's got to have some questions.
it.
I guess, why can't you have a hard contract? I mean, I don't understand that. If you guys have, you know, got money in the game as well, then you're more than likely going to finish the task.
So we're market driven, right?
Right.
Our goal is to earn a return. We have made significant investments to this point.
Right.
There is now a demand from the corporation that we return on that investment. To go to the next phase after we pass this work that we're doing together, we'll make another serious chunk of investment in terms of specific land planning, marketing, et cetera. There will still be an expectation that what's been spent plus what is being spent, there is a return on that. So we're driven to deliver on the market. But I can't guarantee what the market's going to do. I can't guarantee what interest rates will be. I can't guarantee you if there's a plummet in the market. What I can tell you is that we're a group of people that are going to work collaboratively with St. Mary's, and we're going to adjust. The other thing to understand is that St. Mary's doesn't have to take all that $36 million that they first get and spend it all in the first year. They can apportion that spending as we're working together and seeing how the market's responding. And so they have the ability, after 2 years, if we all see the market tanking, everybody, let's stop, let that money continue to earn interest, and as the market picks back up, then we continue at a pace. So there are ways in which we can help each other be successful in this venture. But there's no way that Rayonier can guarantee what the market's going to do.
But you do have skin in the game.
If you read the report from Bleakley, it says that the developer's investment, not necessarily Radiant, because we're going to bring in people, but the investments that developers are going to make on this property is in the $1.3 or $4 billion. So the skin in the game is huge.
Okay.
Yep.
But I guess again, you know, market driven. So if that, you know, wants, you know, and that's a good point. I mean, as far as it depends on the pace at which the city, you know, puts that infrastructure in. You know, that's a very valid point. But, you know, although there are a lot of things we can't guarantee, what we can guarantee is once that infrastructure is put in, those bond payments are going to become due. And, you know, we just have to have a way to service that debt, or y'all do. I don't want to speak for you, but, you know, I guess that's a little bit, you know, concerning. Just kind of look at that and see, has there, you know, when I look at land planning and land development, you know, I look at a perfect opportunity like what happened with, you know, Winding River with that subdivision. You know, Landmark came in and they actually had to run water and sewer down Winding Road. And what then happened, once that infrastructure was put in, the city accepted it as public, you know, infrastructure and issued the developer a water and sewer tap credit. Has a structure like that not been considered that would put zero risks to the taxpayers?
So I think we've come up with a really elegant approach that's flexible, that can create success. We're working with partners now, even creating a bigger level of partnership that involves opportunities for Kingsland in a bigger way for everybody to participate in. We're all taking risks together. We've spent a significant amount of money that I'm not allowed to publicly say, but I want you to understand, we've got skin in the game that is being demanded a return that I can't do until we get moving forward. So we're all putting things at risk here.
Any other questions?
Just have a statement.
Okay.
Risk scares me.
Me too.
Yep, big time.
Me too.
When we're spending other people's money. Yep. That's all I had.
Yeah, I'll just follow up. I mean, I'm not in any way against this project as a whole. I just think I would like to see certain measures in place to protect the taxpayers if development does not go through, because again, it is risky and it is speculative, and I just don't think we should gamble taxpayer funds, so.
Did have one more question, because I talked with the school board yesterday, and I told you I was going to ask this. You guys, how much land are you going to give to the public school?
So we're in current, that's what I was referring to in that partnership with the school.
Mhm.
They have asked for 35 upland acres in order to be able to site a middle school. And we are currently in discussions about that transaction and opportunity. And we've located a spot that seems very suitable that they've said this would work for us. And so we're moving forward with those discussions, and I'm hoping this week we'll conclude those.
Okay, and is there any way that you could put that in writing? Is that a possibility?
That's part of our conversation, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's good.
No comment.
Well, I don't have anything. If nobody else has anything, we'll close this.
Can I ask
portion.
one last question,
Sure.
if I may? Can we get this on the next commission meeting?
Yes, we can do that.
All right, so we'll have all the documentation prepared. We'll try and see what we do about the other.
All right. Anybody got anything else?
Thank you.
All right, we'll
Thank
close
you.
this work session and we'll have our regular meeting at 6 o'clock. Thank y'all. Welcome to the Camden County Board of Commissioners regular meeting. We'll have the invocation by Mr. Brandt, and then we'll go into the pledge of allegiance.
Let us pray. Father God, we praise you, we love you. Father, we thank you for being with us this evening. Father, we thank you for the beautiful weather you've given us. But we especially thank you for all the households that's represented here this evening. Father, just be with us, lead us, guide us, and direct us in the decisions we make to benefit all of Camden County. For this we pray in your most glorious name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for roll call, okay?
All commissioners are present.
This brings us to Missouri. Well, I'll make a statement before we get into that. Going forward, we're gonna put down basically on paper what we do as far as how we set the agenda and what's allowed going forward. We'll bring that up at the next meeting. At this time, is there any amendments to the agenda?
I'd like to make an amendment to the agenda to add item number 11 for the purpose of Spaceport Camden related discussions.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? No? All in favor? Got a motion to carry on that? Now, I will want to state one thing though, anything that's legal, we won't be able to discuss.
Fair enough.
Is there any other amendments? Hearing none, can we get an adoption of the agenda as stated?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of the agenda? Agenda carries. Okay, this brings us to the approval of the minutes from the January 3rd special called meeting and the January 3rd regular meeting.
Make a
Motion to approve as presented.
second.
Any discussion or changes on that? All in favor? That motion carries unanimous. This brings us to presentation. We got one on the floor. Who's giving
Good evening, Commissioners and Mr. Boatright and Mr. Attorney. I'm Amy Peoples with the Employee Recognition Committee. I have the honor tonight to present the employee of the fourth quarter for 2022. Each quarter, employees are asked to nominate a coworker who they feel is exemplary or an employee who goes above and beyond in their duties. Tonight, we would like to recognize an employee who has been with Camden County since November of 2017. Prior to coming to work for Camden County, this employee had a 33-year career with Bayer Crop Science as a senior staff associate in human resources. There were 20 nominations for Employee of the Quarter. This employee received 16 of those nominations. Most all of the nominations mentioned how Maxine is always smiling and a joy to talk to, friendly and helpful, tries her best to help you with your issues. One said she makes not only the office brighter, but Camden County Fire Rescue as a whole. Maxine is quirky, quick-witted, and lots of fun to work with. She leaves a lasting impression of personality and professionalism with every member of Camden County Fire Rescue and any person from the community that visits Camden County Fire Rescue. Unfortunately, we'll be losing Maxine at the end of the month as she plans to retire to spend more time with her family and her grandchildren. But she does promise to come by weekly to take care of everyone's plants. Maxine Meredith was chosen to be the Camden County Employee of the fourth quarter of 2022. Maxine. All of my work family, not only the firefighters, but the combined employees as well. Accommodating and helpful. This is probably important.
Can we do one with our fire rescue? Please.
Yeah, y'all too.
This is where glad show.
All right, this brings us to the public comments section. Is there anybody rescue case?
Yes, I have several. The first will be Mr. Ben Goff.
My name is Ben Goff. I live at Harris Bluff. Good evening, gentlemen. I believe both of these were agenda items. Reaffirm the county attorney's contract. It's not up for consideration really until June, so I don't know why it's on there. I don't understand what Mr. Casey was referring to in the last meeting. As a curious old man, I tend to peruse the planned agenda of the commissioners fairly closely, and tonight's no exception. I cannot believe some of the reaffirmed contracts listed and reaffirmed as a synonym for renew. Some of the costs for benefits seem to be ludicrous, and I wonder who's overseeing this. There are two that are in my field, former field, that's TDS Telecom and Williams Communications. Both entities seem to be grossly overcompensated, and exactly who is in a position to determine that contracts and fees are realistic. Leisure Services, PSA, has no contract terms, therefore it's not a contract by strict definition. This is also on the agenda. I, along with some of you, watched the two new commissioners during the swearing-in ceremony and found it to be pretty inclusive of what I would expect from a member of the board. Now comes a resolution proposed by someone on the board that is absolutely eye-opening, and I will immediately laugh at anyone who takes signing the resolution seriously. I know of no one who voted for a go-along to get along commissioner. My goodness. I find it interesting that this resolution is thought to be required, as this shouldn't be considered to be a Boy Scout troop, and it seems to be rather unprofessional in its entirety. In it, I see no reference to accountability to constituents, nothing furthering communications with citizens, nor any reference to transparency in dealing with the general public. In general, exactly what is expected by this exercise. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Who's next, Kevin?
Ms. Terry Keller.
Terry Keller, Kingsland. My grown son, who went to school here in Camden County, had never heard of it. My two grown daughters likewise hadn't either. I eventually found out about it, but was afraid to look more closely due to the enormity of the disaster, worried that I would be overtaken by sorrow. Then I visited the Thiokol Museum in Kingsland. A massive explosion happened in North Camden County at 10:53 a.m. on the morning of February 3rd, 1971. It was one of the largest industrial accidents in the history of Georgia and set 200 acres of the surrounding woods on fire. 29 workers who had been providing munitions for the United States for the Vietnam War lost their lives that day and in the days that followed. Many friends and family who had known each other for years were among the lost. They had started working at the Thiokol Chemical Corporation plant with high hopes of the future. A unique opportunity had been offered to these Camden residents, many of them African American, most of them women, to earn an hourly wage that was considered good for 1971. Rescuers came from miles around. 33 different teams, as well as citizens from at least a dozen cities around the area, raced to the Thiokol location to assist those in need. What happened that fateful day was in 1971 was horrific, but the Thiokol victims did not give their lives in vain. Due to the enormity of the accident, many changes were made after the explosion, changes to work safety laws, and some more far-reaching, like an eventual end to having separate hospital rooms for blacks and whites. On Friday, February 3rd, 2023, at 10 a.m., the Thiokol Memorial Project will be remembering and honoring all those involved in that unforgettable event. The public is cordially invited to attend this 52nd anniversary ceremony, which will be held at the Camden County PSA Complex, 1050 Wildcat Drive, Kingsland, Georgia. For more information, please visit thiokolmemorial.org or Thiokol Memorial Project on Facebook. Thank you.
Comments? Anybody else got?
Yes, Mr. Ricky Manning.
Ricky Manning from Bullhead. I see in the agenda on contract renewals or reaffirmance, there's a spot on there about Two Rivers Gun Range. I'm here to ask the board not to reaffirm, approve any contract, agreement, or any kind of funding for that range until you are fully committed to taking care of the nuisance noise. You made a futile attempt to come out there and belittle me and disrespect me in my yard. I told you before you wasted more tax money that I knew the levels were permissible. There's a big difference between permissible and the nuisance and what it does emotionally and psychologically to people, pets, and wildlife. Now, I'll fight this until the day I die or until y'all fix it. Simple as that. You bring a so-called expert out there that did nothing but disrespect me and didn't even know his own facts. He sat right there, told me all kind of crap. Every time you double the distance, Ricky, it drops 10 decibels. False. It drops 6 decibels. So you do your research before you send somebody out there, because I probably know more than he did. And he tells me wind has very little factor. False again. Do your research. I don't have to sit here and explain to you about Doppler effects and everything else with wind, especially when it's traveling in the same direction as the acoustic wave. Now, I don't come up here without researching things and without knowledge. So y'all can take whatever you want to do and do what you want to do. If it takes me to going out and removing board members so that I can get some people up there that will agree with me, that's what it'll take. It doesn't matter to me. He disrespected me. Flat out told me that there's no way in the world I'm hearing what I'm hearing. I asked him if he wanted to listen to it. No, you can't listen to it. It's not admissible in court anyway. So what you gonna do? Take me to court? I welcome that too. Now, this county can either commit to doing something or I'm fixing to take this fight way beyond this little room right here. And don't think I don't have backing and something won't be done. So you can sit there and try to belittle me and disrespect me all you want with your little so-called expert and waste more tax money if you want to. Spend that tax money and fix the problem.
Anybody else?
Ms. Colleen Winkle.
Good evening, Colleen Winkle, Harriet's Bluff. Since budget amendments are on the agenda, I am here tonight to once again ask the county to amend the FY 2023 budget and reinstate $30,000 for the Woodbine Public Library. We have several supporters here tonight. Would they please stand? The Woodbine Public Library is a bona fide lending library with membership in Three Rivers Regional Library System. It serves a great need for the northern half of the county, as the nearest library in Woodbine is 15 miles each way, and even further for those that live north of Woodbine, including Tarboro, Waverly, and White Oak. As members of the Three Rivers Regional Library System, we are one of 9. We reap the benefits of their expertise and leadership, along with the funds that are assigned by the state to the regional libraries in Georgia. Three Rivers alone receives $913,734, which is portions out to each of the 9 libraries. They are a fiscal agent. They provide many services, including internet, Hines Library Information System, certified librarians to train the staff, recorded books, ebooks, and audio, computers, and IT staff to maintain it, and books and other materials with that funding. However, they do not supply funds for day-to-day operations, including salaries for employees. State law requires libraries to be funded by the taxing agents in the county. We cannot continue to stay open without the county including us in the budget. We have been careful managers of the funds we have received, and with such a small budget, are able to open 19 hours a week. Before being cut from the budget, our plan was to expand opening hours for our patrons as our patronage continues to grow, with over 50 children at our last story time. In only 2 years, the library has become an integral part of Woodbine and the northern part of the county. It provides a place for study, computer use, printer access, 24/7 internet service, book checkout, a community meeting place, and much more. Our high-speed internet service is also available around the perimeter of our building. One can see people sitting outside in their cars using the internet when the library is not open, or using the outdoor seating area. This works well for students that need internet to complete homework assignments. This free service to our community is valuable to school children that don't have internet in their homes. We have many families that are regular customers and come to the library over and over again. New families arrive weekly. We have a group of teens that visit the library every Saturday to meet, take advantage of our computers, books, and other services. This is a safe place for them to meet and hold their club meetings. We have adults that come in to get help with filling out applications for jobs and community services. We have employees who can help. Just Saturday, when I was at the library, a lady walked to our library to get help with using a computer for completing an application for assistance. This was the 3rd place she had visited that day in her quest to get help. How nice to have a place in Woodbine that serves the citizens in need. Patrons can order a book online and pick it up at Woodbine, as opposed to going all the way to Kingsland. How convenient for those that work in Woodbine to pick up their ordered materials on the way home from work, when their Kingsland or St. Mary's library would already be closed by the time they arrive. The library provides programs for patrons, including a summer reading program for children, author visits, story times, computer help, and meeting areas. We are grateful for the help with Three Rivers, Woodbine City, and Senator William Ligon. We were able to turn an old fire station into a beautiful, vibrant community library with a $280,000 grant from the state of Georgia, thus bringing economic development to the community. We have also generated in-kind donations to this area. Did you know there is a connection between public libraries and less crime? higher property values, and improved literacy? Studies show that most people believe public libraries improve the quality of life and consider the library when choosing a place to live. Please reinstate tonight our funding with a working participation agreement for continual annual funding from Camden County. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. We'll be adding this to a work session, the second meeting in February. Anybody else, Katie?
No, sir.
Anybody else will speak?
Good evening. My name is Janie Everett, and I'm here to represent Thackall Memorial Project. I want to thank you all for the work that you've done in helping us with the museum, and helping us to fulfill our mission to remember and honor all of the Thackall victims. For years, and I made a solemn promise to the manufacturers of the munitions. Some of the women, before they died, their dying wish was that their service to this country be respected, remembered, and honored. And I gave them my word. And so for the past 9 going on 10 years, myself and the staff, the citizens of Camden County, have been working tirelessly to see to it that they are recognized. We have a complaint or a congressional inquiry into the 6 families that were not compensated and the 2 seriously injured people that are still suffering. One of them still suffering, one of them has passed away from the injuries received that day. So I thank you all. This agreement is a beginning, and we look forward to working with you. Hopefully we can get some increase in funding as we go along and work along with this project. We need to have a professional staff to keep the place open. But this is a beginning, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak? Seeing none, we'll move on. We'll start with the whole business. This is reaffirm all the existing long-term contracts. Again, this is not a renewal. It is simply restating the contracts that we have. And we've gone, we've done more than probably a lot of counties in Georgia. A lot of counties don't even do this. We will also make it where the document that the commissioners can see, we'll have it posted online where the public can go to it, see it, click on it, and go to the contracts that are involved here. With that said, can I get a motion on this item?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to reaffirm all existing long-term contracts.
I get a second.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Yes.
I'd like to understand why Camden County is paying the Joe Tanner and Associates a huge amount of money to represent us in, I think, Atlanta, maybe Washington, when we have legislative delegations to do that for us.
A lot of times the legislators are busy doing other things, and these are our eyes and ears on what's going on in Atlanta.
Basically our lobbyist.
Yes.
It seems like we're paying a huge amount of money for something that we're not getting a lot of return on. It was reported to me that Stephen Sains asked our lobbyist, what about the spaceport? And he said he hadn't heard anything about the spaceport in months and months.
So
We're not doing anything with the spaceport right now. So he's not doing anything. But anyway.
This was some time back before we stopped doing something about the spaceport. I think we're not getting our full measure of value for that. I don't know how many other counties in Georgia do this. I've asked the commissioners on these training meetings that I've been to, and it's pretty much foreign concept to most of them. Is Camden County doing something that it doesn't need to do?
Well, I'll tell you what, when that contract comes up for renewal, we'll bring it before the whole board and we'll either renew it or we'll cancel it.
Is that the?
Right now, we're just reaffirming all the contracts.
Does the contract renew at the beginning of the fiscal year?
I'd have to.
It looks like June 1st to June 1st. You know, another point to consider, I'm not sure exactly the specifics of what's being done, but, you know, we don't want to duplicate efforts if ACCG already has lobbyists, you know, that are helping on some of these same issues. So just kind of a point to make, so.
Well, right now, if you want to back that out and do that separate from all of them,
I would like to back it out, do a lot of research on it, find out what we're getting, and find out what our escape is, what termination rights we have. Surely we can stop doing it if it doesn't make any sense.
You read the contract?
Have not.
Well, right now, we're reaffirming the contract. We got a first and a second. Can I get a vote on this measure?
Can I make this statement though?
Well, hold on a second. Any opposed? Okay, it's 3-2. The motion carries.
I asked about that particular group and was told basically that they were a lobby group, have nothing to do with spaceport whatsoever. As a matter of fact, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, that they're basically lobbying now for the airport. Am I correct?
Yes, sir. I mean, there's a number of different items that we've used them for. In fact, one of the items are state legislative priorities.
Right.
They'll be sent this list as well. We've used them in the past for the airport, for GDOT projects. You know, I think, ACCG does a wonderful job of, you know, lobbying for all counties, I think. And, you know, I do know of other counties that have lobbyists for them for their specific needs, whether it's a large scale development project. And I think, you know, we've used them whenever it's more of a local need, that the General Assembly needs to be involved in, or if it's just like a state agency issue that we're having issues with, either communicating with that state agency or, you know, we have a significant need and we need to be able to get it up to that level of whether it's the commissioner that's in charge of that state agency or what have you. And most of the time, it's always in communication with our local delegation as well. They've always been at those conversations.
So, and just to put it on the record, we basically are trying to renew transparency totally with this board. And the fact is, that doesn't have anything to do with this being a spaceport issue at all. Am I correct?
Not to my knowledge, not right now.
That's what
I'll accept that point, Mr. Chairman, but I'd like to know what the deliverables are. I'd like some reports from this guy. We've paid him every month since 2017. And currently it looks like it's $3,500 a month. What are we getting consistently month after month for $3,500 that we can't get through other means? Why do we need him? How many other counties are doing this? Those are questions I'd like to have answered.
Okay, we'll see if we can't answer them. All right, moving on to the next item. We got to reaffirm the county attorney contract. Can I get a motion on this item?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to reaffirm the county attorney's contract.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Yes.
Yes. The county attorney has communicated with the attorney who represented me as a class plaintiff and has indicated that he will not be discussing anything related to the lawsuits. And he made it an encompassing statement. I understand that he can't have anything to do with that particular lawsuit. I respect that. But I respect also that there are other lawsuits that are not related to that particular lawsuit that still come under the guise of spaceport lawsuits. And if he can't talk with me on those, then I ask you to appoint a counsel to me, the same as you did for Bo Sweat, that can deal with me and help me get the information that I need if I have to have any interaction with Attorney Myers.
Well, we'll have to work on that. I can't give you an answer tonight.
And I don't expect an answer tonight, except that later on tonight, when I start talking about spaceport, I expect to be allowed to continue.
Well, we'll see when we get there.
Yes, we will. Thank you.
All right. We got a first and a second. Can we get a vote on this item? Those opposed? That's 4-1. All right, let's go to the next. Let's bring us to the regular agenda. And this is a resolution regarding the Board of Commissioners Code of Conduct and Civility. This item was something that we worked on during the planning sessions back in December. However, there is a code of conduct included in our ordinances already. So this is basically, in a way, reaffirming that. Can I get a motion on this item?
Motion to approve.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Those opposed? You abstaining?
Yes. And just to clarify, I was absent the second day of strategic planning, did not participate in coming up with these bullet points, so I just wanted to abstain.
Okay. Well, most of it is covered under the, our ordinance anyway, and I encourage everybody to read that as well. And that's not just, it doesn't cover just the commissioners, but it also covers, public participation in the meetings as well. Item number 4, swearing in a code enforcement officer. Who's handling that?
Chairman, this is the swearing in of our new animal control officer, Tyler Fleming. Some of you have attended the meeting.
Mr. Slimmer, I need you to raise your right hand, and at the end of the oath, just say, "I will," "I do," or "I affirm," however you wish to respond. You solemnly swear or affirm that you will well and faithfully uphold and execute the constitutions and laws of the United States and the state of Georgia, and to the best of your ability enforce the regulations and ordinances of Camden County, Georgia, and that as an employee of Camden County, you are not the holder of any public funds not accounted for. I do. All right. Congratulations. Thanks, sir. All right. You'll need to sign your commission with the clerk. I already have. Yes. Very good.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard. All right, this brings us to the appointments of, to the Camden County Board of Elections for District 2, 4, and 5. We'll start off with District 2. Can I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to nominate Dr. Janet Bradford to the Board of Elections and Registration.
Okay, she's already serving on
She
that.
is.
This is a reappointment.
Yes.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carries. All right, can I get a motion for the appointment to District Board for Board of Elections?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With grateful appreciation to Mr. Joseph Michaels for his 4-year term on the Board of Elections, and with appreciation to Mary Ann Meadows for applying, I would like to appoint Julia McCullough, Dr. Julia McCullough.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carries. Okay, for District 5, I've moved to reappoint Kyle Rapp to the Board of Elections. Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Kyle is serving now. He's doing a good job for us, so we'll put him back. Okay, this brings us to item number 5. Who's doing this?
Stop, six.
We're on,
No, you're on
Six.
6?
Yep.
Okay.
Chairman, this was the agreement that came out of the prior board's $20,000 commitment to the Thykol Memorial Project. This is the agreement that was put together alongside our county attorney and with Miss Everett's input. So this is before you for your consideration this evening.
Can I get a motion on this item?
Motion to approve the agreement of tourism promotion activities with the Thykol Memorial Project.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, can I get a vote? All those in favor? Motion carried. This brings us to item number 7.
Good evening, Commissioners. This agenda item for your consideration are budget amendments to the general fund and also the unincorporated tax district. The most significant budget amendment is for right-of-way mowing, and the current contract with PSA ends on April 30th, and that contract was $338,086 annually. The county put out a RFP for right-of-way mowing and received 2 bids, one from the PSA for $731,888 and one from Brightview for $688,887. And due to that, and also other considerations during strategic planning, the decision was made to bring that in-house. So that's the majority of this budget amendment is for that. It's adjusting the salaries and benefits and operating expenses through June 30th. And also, it's making an amendment to capital equipment purchases that total $381,500, and that's detailed on your agenda memo. And also, currently in the unincorporated tax district, there's a $2.5 million fund balance. And out of this, in the fiscal year 23 budget, we had budgeted about $979,000 of that fund balance use. And by doing these budget amendments, it would bring the fund balance use to $1.6 million. And the other items are detailed on the attachment that you have. So we're requesting approval.
Okay, this was, some of this was actually a fairly long-term plan, was to bring in the right-of-way mowing back from the PSA and bring it in-house. It took us a while to do that. The hope was we'd be able to get some of the equipment from the PSA, but they need to hold on to it because they do right-of-way mowing for the city of St. Mary's. With that said, can I get a motion on this item?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carried.
The next agenda item is just to change the authorized signers on our eConnect Securities agreement. eConnect is a web-based portal which is offered by Multibank Securities, and it offers fixed income securities. And also the portal allows the county to purchase from multiple banks and gives us an opportunity to really ladder our investments. And they're all completely secure through FDIC and the federal government. And all we're doing is changing the authorized signatures due to staffing changes, which I would remain on as Chief Financial Officer. Janice Beckham would be added as Finance Director, and Sean Boatwright would be added as County Administrator. Requesting approval.
Can I get a motion on this item?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Brings us up to item number 9.
Good evening, Commissioners. I am here tonight just to ask for you to consider approving the intergovernmental agreements that we have with all 3 municipalities for the elections for this upcoming year, 2023.
Can I get a motion on this item?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just curious, are any funds transferred to do this or just part of an intergovernmental agreement? And
So once we hold the election for them and I see what all of the costs are, then I submit an invoice to the city.
okay, it's just what our cost is to
Correct.
perform that. Perfect. Thank you.
Well, we got a first and a second. Can we get a vote on this? All in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you, commissioners.
Brings us to item number 10, Mr. Boatright. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And thank you to the board for, putting in the time and, research, just looking at all the legislative priorities that ACCG has been working on over the last several years for some of these items, and even the county here locally. So with that came out a number of different items. Some of these are recurring. The mental health reform, this was a big push by the General Assembly last year. This is continuing efforts to increase Medicaid reimbursement for behavioral health services, expanding the availability of behavioral health crisis centers, appropriating funds for the establishment of co-responder programs, and just increasing the communication between state and local agencies and officials to try to encourage and enhance the mental health and behavioral health services. The next item is reimbursement for EMS services. This is also a repeat from last year's that we had. This is just, really trying to get those first 10 miles of transport. A number of our transports in this county occur within the first 10 miles due to, our county having a hospital here. So right now, we do not get the first 10 miles as eligible for billing for Medicaid reimbursement. So it's pushing that. Also increasing EMS Medicaid rate to the rural and urban Medicare rate and utilizing EMS licensing fees to increase the Medicaid reimbursement rates for these ambulance services. The next item is the Local Maintenance and Improvement Grant, which is commonly referred to as LMIG through GDOT. You'll recall the state of Georgia suspended the motor fuel tax for a number of months, which cut their budget significantly. They probably lost over $1 billion. I don't actually know what the total figure was, but well over $1 billion in sales tax revenue to the state. What, out of that funding to the state comes the local maintenance improvement grants for all cities and counties throughout the state. So ACCG's ask, as well as our ask, is to continue to preserve the current rate of LMIG funding for what we get. Camden County roughly gets about $440,000 a year. That number fluctuates depending upon the motor fuels sales tax as well as population. But this is, again, just asking the state to continue funding us at the current rates or even higher than that. The next item we've had in the past is truck weight limit increases. This is opposing any legislation that would increase the allowable weight limits on local roads. We all know these truck weight limits, if they are increased, they will just continue to rapidly deteriorate our local roads and bridges and just other pieces of infrastructure that we have. Another one was really just an inadvertent misstep by the General Assembly, but this is to support dedicating the 2 remaining environmental trust funds that, again, were just inadvertently not included in the previous House Bill 511. And this is for the hazardous waste management fee and the hazardous substance reporting fee. That's what those 2 are for. Our local priorities, this one is a carryover from last year, is the general aviation airport development. Last year, the board completed 2 large milestones, which one was the sponsorship, identifying the sponsorship of the aviation or the airport. The other was completing the financial analysis. And right now we're in the process of continuing that work and doing a justification analysis. This is asking, the state to continue to know that this is a priority for the county as we move forward. The final is increasing our local the unincorporated portion of hotel motel tax increased to 6%. Right now, Kingsland and St. Mary's are both at 6%. This would allow us to be in unison with those 2 cities. This would require General Assembly approval. So this one will require local legislation to be passed at the General Assembly. And with that, if there are any questions, entertain those now.
Carry for me. All right, can I get a motion on this item? So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carries. All right, this brings us to the reports. Oh, that's right. Forgot that. You want to state your motion, how you want it?
Well, I don't necessarily have a motion. I just wanted to bring up for discussion, spaceport. And, what I would like to see going forward is not necessarily be a item on every agenda, but I think we could do a better job of being transparent and giving an update, at least at every meeting, as far as what's going on. And, there may not be an update to be given every time, and there may be legalities that we can't discuss specifically in an open meeting regarding litigation and land acquisition. But I think we could do a better job of being a little bit more transparent with what's going on behind the scenes. So that was the reason I wanted to add it to the meeting.
I don't have a problem with any of that.
I don't.
Anybody else got anything?
Yes. Gentlemen, we've lost trust of our citizens over refusing to release spaceport records to the public. Our citizen taxpayers have paid the spaceport bills now for a decade, and they deserve to see these public records. Also, by releasing these records in accordance with the requirements of the Georgia Open Records Act, we can shed a lawsuit that remains pending against the county over the county's failure to release the records. This would save the county having to pay attorneys in Savannah, very expensive attorneys in Savannah, to litigate this matter. I make the following motion. That the county manager is hereby instructed to release all records related to Camden County's pursuit of a commercial spaceport to the public in response to both pending and newly submitted requests for such information under the Georgia Open Records Act.
I'll second that.
All right. I'll make a motion, we postpone this item until 2 meetings after the Supreme Court of Georgia rules on the cases before it.
I'll second that.
No discussion?
We can have discussion now.
It's a motion on the floor. You can't move to another motion.
That is not correct.
Point of order?
Point of order is, you made a motion, I made a, not a secondary motion, I can't remember.
Intervening motion.
And that intervening motion takes precedence over yours. Now, I made a motion that we postpone the discussion about this until after the Supreme Court rules, 2 meetings after Supreme Court rules.
So we've got an intervening motion on the floor and there's a second. So now can we have our discussion?
Yeah, while we're having it now.
Okay. Yeah, I think to me, it goes back to our strategic planning. And when we had our, I'm going to say consultant, but when our advisor came in, I think the number one thing he said on day one that stuck with me is, he said, okay, guys, y'all are elected. It's time, to forget about politics and look at governing. And when I look at that, I don't think he meant governing the people. When I look at that, the people don't need governing, the government does. And so I think we've got to take their best interest, at heart and look at our fiduciary responsibilities, to take that tax money and allocate it appropriately, and how that structure was, like our core principles and core, the foundation of government. What services do we need to provide? What services might be nice to have and what services improve quality of life. And so I just, I would like to kind of take a step back and look as we're going through and making funding decisions that we kind of reprioritize our spending based upon the taxpayers' needs. So.
Well, right now, the money has already been spent and we're just waiting on Supreme Court ruling. And to me, it would be foolish to not wait for the Supreme Court ruling.
Yep.
Anybody else got anything else?
But there are ongoing legal costs that are being incurred on a daily basis. As we volunteered to intervene in these court cases, which we did not have to volunteer to intervene in. So we're waiting on the Supreme Court decision on one case, but there are two other cases at least.
There's a total of 4 cases, correct?
How many are there?
4,
Four.
with 4 separate law firms representing us, correct? Okay. The only case that I could, potentially see a benefit from would be the one against UCC. And I don't know if we can say what what relief we're seeking from that case. Is that public record?
We're seeking to recover money under the contract.
Is the dollar amount public?
That's up to a motion for right now.
Okay. So
And that is pending on the Georgia Supreme Court.
Well, that's part of the argument with the federal court in Brunswick, where that case is currently pending, the UCC case. And we're waiting on the judge to rule on that. A motion has been made to stay that litigation pending.
So to clarify, we're not seeking relief to be able to, force them to sell us the property. We're seeking relief to.
I really can't go into further
Okay.
detail at this point.
That's what bothers me is the fact that that property sitting out there contaminated. We didn't do it. None of us contaminated it. Union Carbide contaminated that property. And the scream to me should be Union Carbide, clean up your mess. Don't leave it here for us, because what's going to happen is that stuff's going to get down into our water if somebody doesn't clean it up. Now, I've been against the land purchase from the very beginning. I want private industry out there. It's been very important to me that we have to make up 3,500 jobs that have been lost in this community over the years. That's the shutting down of the paper mill, the bag plant, the Union Carbide, Rome Pelone, and the Bayer property, And I think it's vital that sometimes we just take a step back. Like last week, when you tried to make me vote one way and I couldn't do it because I still don't have all the facts. I want to know exactly what our options are. It's been 7 years you guys have been fighting this, and I've been out there with you. I didn't know any more than anybody else, and I probably still don't know as much as he does. But I know this. We can wait 2 more months to find out what's going on. If we make knee-jerk decisions, then we get knee-jerk reactions. That's what we get. And the whole thing of them owing us money, I bought a lot of property in my time, and I had to put earnest money down to buy that property. And if I broke that contract, I had to lose my earnest money. And I'll bet you, I don't know this for sure, but I'll bet you it's in the millions of dollars. And I'd like to see this county get back some of it. I can't answer for what someone else did, but we can answer for where we go forward. And in my opinion, waiting a couple of months to get some kind of answer, and even though I don't even like lawsuits, I don't believe in them at all. However, we are where we are, and we need to move forward. And it's time just to be patient and move forward. And I believe that. I've written down all this stuff. I was up at 3 o'clock this morning asking myself the same questions that you guys ask. Do I believe in this? Why do I believe in this? Why should we go forward? Why should we stop? What should we do? All the questions that you have, we have as well. However, we are where we are, and the only way to move forward is to have just a little more patience. Now, granted, I know Facebook will be full tonight. Now, I can't help that. That's your problem, not mine. But I'm telling you this. We have to somehow unite our community. I was at Martin Luther King Day yesterday, and that's all he kept saying. This community needs to get together. We need to get united. You need to know what's going on with that property. I believe that. I agree with you. But let's just be patient. So there's my sermon for tonight.
All right, we got a first and a second. Can I get a vote on this?
What was the motion again? Can you
The
repeat the
motion was to postpone it until 2 meetings after the Supreme Court decision. Are those opposed? Motion carries.
Have another motion, sir?
No, sir.
I'd like to speak then at the end of the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Calendar, Katie?
Report.
There's no changes to the calendar at this time.
Reports from the county administrator?
I have none.
All right, I'll give you 2 minutes, Mr. Gooden.
Won't take that long, thank you. We're currently party to 3 lawsuits that Camden County voluntarily signed up for. We've intervened in a lawsuit brought by environmental groups against the FAA challenging the environmental review associated with the launch site operator's license. We have sued Union Carbide over their refusal to sell us their property. We've been sued as a result of our failure to release public records related to the spaceport fiasco. These lawsuits are costing taxpayers in Camden County hundreds of thousands of dollars per year, and there is no reward waiting for us, even if we prevail in each of them. I make the following motion: that the county attorney is hereby instructed to take such actions as necessary to end Camden County's involvement in the federal lawsuit against the FAA, the lawsuit brought by Camden County against Union Carbide, Carbide, and the lawsuit brought by 100 Miles against the county for violations of the Georgia Open Records Act. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your comment.
It was a motion, sir.
No, sir. All right, this brings us to additional public comments.
I do have some people registered. Mr. Bengoff?
My name is Ben Goff, and I'm here at Bluff, where we do try to follow Robert's Rules of Order. Representative government has historically denoted a system in which people elect their lawmakers, representatives, who are then held accountable to them for their activity within government. Anybody remember what happened on March 8th of 2022? Let me help you a minute. 72% of the voters said no to purchasing Union Carbide property. The majority of those that I have conversed with believe that that should have signaled the end of the spaceport folly, thus end the end of taxpayer funding. Our representatives have sought to negate the wishes of their constituents, and spending on lawsuits continues. Why? Only those with a secret handshake, according to Commissioner last meeting, are privy to that information. And I'm wondering if that's fear of the outcome. I do know this, as you should. One commissioner wants to hear more from the ones that know, not groups. My goodness, sir, 72% of the people that you represent in your district said no. It is not a matter of your opinion. It's a representation of the people in your district. I wonder how much the members of the Spaceport Authority members appointed under a cloud of secrecy, and nobody seems to know why, affect those decisions. Last commissioner, and this is a separate item, last commissioner's meeting, a St. Mary's citizen living in Osprey Cove was appointed as the county representative on the Public Service Authority. And to my knowledge, there's no unincorporated populated area in District 4. Maybe, but I'm not aware of it. I'm not certain who made the nomination, but it sounded like the District 2 representative, but all 5 commissioners approved it. Why? None of the folks living in unincorporated county areas that the commissioners specifically represent that applied were contacted or considered. That is, it was evident during his selection. When I approached the chairman of the commission, and I paraphrase his response, we did it because we could. Talk to your House representative if you don't agree. He wrote the legislation. Now, that information will be in the minutes, exactly what I sent to him, and his response. And I grant you that was paraphrased. It was not said exactly that way, but Same thing appears to me that you feel that you can do however you choose to do if you have any leeway whatsoever. I saw it in the last appointments. The last two people that were on the PSA board from the county, both were in the unincorporated area. I don't see why it shouldn't still be that way. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Ms. Terry Keller.
Terry Keller, Kingsland. I'm here to cheer for the Woodbine Public Library. First, yay! First, thank you for what you have done in the past to help make it a reality. I went there last week and was glad to see it being utilized enthusiastically by Woodbine citizens. Libraries are so precious to their local communities. When my children were small, it was their absolute favorite thing to do to go to the local library. We didn't have a lot of money, but there we were able to have free fun for as long as we liked. My older daughter, Marilyn, liked it so much that she's now a librarian herself. One thing we really liked about the library was story time. The Woodbine Public Library has that and also features book signings like the recent one with the author of I Have MS and It Doesn't Have Me, My Journey to Wellness with an Autoimmune Disease, Tracy Fettinger. The library's Facebook page provides a lot of useful information for the public, such as the fact that November is American Indian Heritage Month. I did not know that, and I'm part Native American. Thanks, Woodbine Public Library. They also had a program on November 5th featuring information about Southeastern American Indians, including the Cherokee, with Jane Winkler. I will be checking this Facebook page regularly from now on for exciting events such as these. Speaking of important community treasures, I would also like to say something additional about the Thiokol Museum and their mission. There's a lot of hope for the future there. Part of that hope is a push going on now to get that very important part of Georgia history documented in book form and shared with not only students, but also the reading public at large. I hope that in the not so distant future, you will be able to find the incredible story of Thiokol in the Woodbine Public Library, Camden County Schools, Georgia colleges, and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Anybody else?
Mr. Ricky Manning.
Well, I came to speak on one thing, but I want to make a comment about the lawsuits first. I can understand maybe somewhat, I don't agree with none of the lawsuits, but the one where you may recoup some of the county's money, yeah, I could see maybe going forward with that one. The other three are frivolous, a waste of tax money. You're not getting anything out of it. Nothing, period. No money, nothing. It's a waste of taxpayers' money. Now, with that said, we started off this year good. We wound up with a new chairman, 2 new commissioners, and well, not so new, but a new administrator. Look forward to things moving differently. They are somewhat, but in the end, you follow the exact same path as your predecessors. Some of you are still their predecessors. I need to remind y'all, you were voted in to represent the people. Not to represent other people's interest or your own interest. The people. They voted for you for a reason. Uphold what you got voted in for. Represent what the people want and what's good for the people. You're not doing that. It's obvious, and you're following the exact same path you've been following, and it's going further downhill. Now, let me remind you, you got voted in, you can get voted out. 30% is not a hard number to reach of the registered voters in each one of your districts to get you out before you end your term. Don't think it can't happen, just like the 72% happened. It will if you keep continuing down this path. And when we change the board, don't think the administration won't get changed too. So, it's your choice what path you want to go down. Be transparent, be open, quit wasting our tax money. Listen to the people, or you're going to wind up out of there. I'll make you that promise. I'll fight this battle. I fought worse ones than this. I fought a battle for my life, and this little old battle here ain't nothing. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Mr. Jim Goodman?
Bear with me, I'm old and slow.
It's slow. Thank you for that. I've taken off my commissioner's hat. I put on my citizen's hat. I address this board. I thank you, Mr. Casey, for what might be a very insightful thing to wait until the Supreme Court decision is made. That is one case out of 3 or 4, depending on who's counting. As a citizen, as a taxpayer, this board needs to stop the nonsense of these frivolous, voluntary lawsuits, which are costing us hundreds of thousands of dollars and have no benefit whatsoever that is apparent coming forth. Maybe Ricky's right. Maybe there can be a clawback. Maybe there can be something that needs to be looked at. But for the time being, the only people who are benefiting, the only people who have benefited out of this whole spaceport fiasco are the attorneys. I love attorneys. They're necessary, but they've had enough. And I want it to stop as soon as it can possibly stop. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. All right, anybody else wish to speak before the board? Hold it, Tom.
Hey, I'm Ginger Reddick, and I'm speaking for the Woodbine Women's Club. I support the Woodbine Women's Club, and I also support the Woodbine Library. I think y'all should too. While y'all are wasting money on the spaceport, your little temper tantrums with the lawsuits, y'all should throw some money towards something that matters. There's a famous quote that a politician thinks of the next election, but a statesman thinks of the next generation. It's sad that you're thinking about a spaceport, but you're not thinking about a library and children and a community. That's what I've got to say.
Thank you.
Tom Canning, 410 Point Peter Place. The subject is the work session that you had today and ultimately the decisions you'll be making in the near future regarding the development out in St. Mary's and the TED. I'm not here, I'm not suggesting that I'm going to bring any new information to you. What I'm hoping to do is simply give you citizens' reinforcement of some of the questions and concerns that you raised yourself, and I ask you to, if it resonates with you, to follow up on your concerns and even dig further. My notes are a little out of order, so bear with me. It may be little to no consequence, but I found it interesting in all the reports generated during the last 10 months, analysis reports and agreements. The property size the area has increased and decreased almost randomly by 9%. One organization would base their calculations and their analysis based on a property size of X, and then a report later on would give their comments and recommendations based on property size Y. I could be more specific if you want. I can give you the detailed feedback, but hopefully you've run into that yourself, where you see numbers are running all over the place. And I think numbers do count when you're talking about using taxpayer dollars to support it. I wanted to read a couple of things here. The KB Advisory Group is the one that provided the financial analysis for the City of St. Mary's. I'm not suggesting that they are not an excellent organization, but I find it, I found it interesting that one of their disclaimers is no responsibility is assumed for inaccuracies or reporting by the client, its agents or representatives, or any other data source used in preparing or presenting the study. So whether it goes up or down 9% or not, they weren't responsible for those changes when they came up with their analysis. I also found it interesting in December's meeting, I think it was December, late November, when they made the original pitch, and the advisor there for the bonds was there. And the analysis provided by KB calculated or assumed 100% contribution by the school board as well as the county. Well, as we know, and I don't know what your final decision is going to be, but as was brought up today, I think the school board, I don't know if anybody said this out loud or not, but I think they're looking at 30% plus property and this, that, and the other. So whether or not that's impactful to the KB analysis, you know, I can't tell you that, but what pulls my trigger is seeing these differences on assumptions and databases. So at the same time, so KB said 100% contribution. This is your analysis. The financial advisor that gave you the information regarding what it would cost to do the bond had calculated in their numbers they knew that the school board was looking for 30%. So even in their consultants were using different baselines of data. Whether it's significant or not, I'll have to leave it to the experts to determine that. One more item out of the KB advisory group. Based on the boundaries and the potential redevelopment, we forecasted how much possible TAD financing would be generated through the pay-as-you-go funding approach and a TAD bond, two significantly different funding vehicles, as probably most of you appreciate. But yet, I don't know which direction the city is going. It looks like we're going to take the most aggressive thing and do the TAD bond, at least for phase one. No responsibility is assumed for inaccuracies in reporting by the client, and I'll repeat that another disclaimer stated again. This report will be based on information that is current as of the date of the report, et cetera, et cetera. Lastly, I found it interesting when the KB made their analysis, they stood up and said, look, we don't have a detailed plan of sequence of events or what project will get done, what schedule will be done. We talked to Rand, and they gave us, and we respect them highly. This is the consultant talking, and they gave us their plan, and we based our analysis based on these verbal discussions. This all makes me, as a citizen, very nervous. We need to be a little bit, I think, more detailed in our analysis and justify why numbers change up and down. So in closing, I think accuracy and consistency in reports and calculations are needed to gain public confidence. And as mentioned on other subjects, I think public confidence on moving forward on this subject is low. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
I'm Dr. Janet Bradford, 145 Christina Lane, Kingsland. Good evening, commissioners, and I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to serve again on the Board of Elections and Registration. We've had some historic elections since the board was created and we took office in January of 2019, and we're likely to see more historic elections over the next 4 years. But we've learned a lot, we've worked hard, and so I want to take this opportunity to thank you for your continued support. And hopefully you'll open your wallets when we come back and say we need more money to do more things, to get more folks out to vote. I'd also like to take the time to publicly thank the Elections and Registration Office under the leadership of Mrs. Shannon Nettles. I think hands down, we have the best elections and registration supervisor in the entire state of Georgia. Where's Shannon? She's done phenomenal work, and we've all learned a lot together. I'd like to close by just saying, as a reminder, the board, as it was established as a nonpartisan board. Now, not all boards in the state of Georgia are established that way, and for whatever reasons, ours was established as nonpartisan. I think the jury may still be out on whether or not that was the best way to go, but that's what we have. So we have to learn to put our personal politics aside and make decisions that are in the best interest of the electorate that we serve. And so, yes, our community is divided, but hopefully the Board of Elections and Registration will continue to work to get the vote out in Camden County, because if you don't like the way things are being done, then the ballot is the best way you have. It really is an equalizer. So for those who we've listened to lots of comments tonight, and I just encourage everybody to get somebody else out to vote. We've had apathetic numbers. When we first started, the numbers were horrible. People just didn't vote. They've gotten better, but I don't know that if that's because of anything that we did. It may have been because of the folks who were running for election, because again, we've had some historic elections. But we will continue to work in a nonpartisan way, in a collaborative way throughout the community to encourage the entire Camden County electorate to get out and cast your vote. So thank you, commissioners, for your support.
Thank you for your service. Anybody else?
Name's Bauer, Harriet's Bluff. I got three things. Number one, the fire department. If a vacant lot catches on fire, does that lot owner pay a fire tax or not? I don't think they do. And I was involved in one. And after it got settled out, everybody paid their fair share, and it came down tremendously on the fire. Another thing is the county, on the tax bill, it says county, and it's got a figure out at the side. What's that figure mean to me, other than $200 and some? I'd like to have a breakdown on that. What is it for? Is it for ambulance service? Is it for mowing my grass that only I mow? Or is it for mowing the roadways? I don't know. And I think people in here are entitled to know. And the third one I forgot already. Because I'm older than Mr. Jim over there.
Thank you for your comments. Yes, sir.
Honorable Commissioners and Mr. County Administrator, my name is Mike Wilkie. I'm recently retired as the Chief of Police for the City of St. Mary's and wanted to come tonight to introduce myself to you because I'm now a candidate for the district, for the Post 3 City Council election coming up in St. Mary's. This was made necessary because of the unfortunate and sad passing of Mr. Danny Riggins. He had been elected to that seat back in the November general election, and subsequent to the election learned that he had terminal cancer and passed away before ever being seated in that seat. We will miss him. I had the opportunity to meet him on a couple of occasions and felt like he was an honest and a good-hearted man and would have done a great job to represent us there. Evidently, the Lord had other purposes for him. Nonetheless, we move forward, and there will be a special election for the City of St. Mary's on Tuesday, March the 21st. I wanted to introduce myself to you this evening, and I'll be back to be a part of the business of the City of St. Mary's. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak before the board? Seeing none, can I get a motion for adjournment? Second? Second. All those in favor? Those opposed? All right, we got one that wants to stay here all night. We're done.